NFL preseason games are well underway. We'll break down some of the biggest components when it comes to the quarterbacks. We'll talk about the rookie quarterbacks and how they're going to showcase this weekend. Then also the Niners quarterback battle, or is it even one right now? We'll talk about that. And Joe Burrow's injury. How long can he sit out? All that and more here on the Friday edition of the Locked On NFL podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter, here with your boy Q. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On NFL, your daily NFL podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Friday edition of the Locked On NFL podcast. I'm Chris Carter. He's your boy Q. We're of Locked On Steelers and Locked On Raiders, breaking things down for you here on the Friday edition of the Locked On NFL podcast that you can always find on your favorite podcasting apps and on YouTube. Like this video if you enjoy it. Subscribe to this YouTube channel to get all of the daily episodes that we offer Monday through Friday with all of the different hosts that we have throughout the week. To check all of our shows out. And today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. LinkedIn Jobs help you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. It's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Q, we're back, baby, and football is on the tube. I'm excited. I'm happy to see it. But let's talk about some of these rookie quarterback situations right now, man. You got CJ Stroud, who didn't look his best against the Patriots. But as we know, if a quarterback looks one way in the preseason, that's just who they're going to be for the rest of their life. They could never possibly get better. It's just doomed for him. CJ Stroud, he went 2 of 4 for 13 yards, threw an interception, and was sacked. He had a passer rating of 17.7. Trade him now. He's terrible. No, that's not actually what we're doing here. It's just, it was interesting to see him go out there, and the Texans. Let's not forget that the Texans were like one of the worst teams in all of football last year, and it's not going to take a simple year of just adding CJ Stroud to fix that. There's a lot of stuff there, but between him and the other rookie quarterbacks, there's a lot to look at here from him, Bryce Young with the Panthers, and Anthony Richardson with the Colts, and how they're going to play out this weekend. And with the Panthers, Bryce Young, they're going up against the Jets in their second preseason game. We might see a little bit of Aaron Rodgers in that one. That would be interesting to see. Q, what are you most looking forward to see from the rookie quarterbacks?
Well, I just want to see how they operate. Look, I don't take a whole lot of stock in what you see. CJ Stroud, and as you mentioned, 2 for 4 had a pick. I mean, I don't really take a whole lot out of that because, first of all, he only threw the ball 4 times. It's his very first taste of NFL action. Anthony Richardson, he's going to be, baptized into the NFL sooner rather than later. So is Bryce Young. Those are the 3 guys that were drafted, in the top 5 as far as quarterbacks go. And as we talked about all the way leading up to the draft, Chris, all of the top quarterbacks are not going to be good in the NFL. So, is it going to be Bryce Young? Is it going to be CJ Stroud? Is it going to be Anthony Richardson? I'm assuming that one of those guys is going to stick, but every one of them has, I don't want to say warts, but every one of them has room to grow. Bryce Young, I mean, it's almost like I'm making a joke saying that, he's got room to grow. The whole knock on him is his size, not even his height, but just his weight. He's a thin dude. And then CJ Stroud, everyone talks about he doesn't really run a lot. He likes to pick you apart from the pocket. And then, Anthony Richardson, he doesn't have any experience. So, we'll see. I'm actually surprised that they're throwing Anthony Richardson in there as quickly as possible, only because he had those 13 starts at Florida. I thought that maybe he's a guy that they kind of bring along slowly since the Colts don't really have super high expectations. I don't believe, at least. I think it was going to give him some time to get some burn, maybe even be a guy that comes in, as a gadget guy throughout the course of a game just to get him into, the feel of the game, but not just throw the whole thing at him. But it sounds like he's going to be the day one starter. So he's going to be interesting to see how quickly he could pick up the NFL. CJ Stroud, I mean, he's got, I think, a comfortable situation. His head coach, D'Amico Ryans, has a 6-year contract. So he's not going anywhere anytime soon. He's a darling of Houston right there. He's a guy who played for the Texans before. So I think that he's got a nice little, leash there. And Carolina probably has the best team right now, right, out of all 3 of those. So, I think they're all in good positions, but then they're all in questionable positions as well. So it's just going to be interesting to see which one separates himself, who ends up being the better quarterback on the better team.
It's a big question, and that's the thing is that talent is not enough. You have to have the right fit because you can be the most talented quarterback that ever came out of college football, and if you go to the wrong situation, you will fizzle out so fast, and then it'll be tough to regain your confidence. And so much of that plays into what these teams have to do with their rookie quarterbacks here on the season. If you had to pick one,
Okay.
who you picking to run your team?
Oh man, that's a good question. I think my gut feeling, I think I'd go with Bryce Young. I really do. I think that Bryce Young's probably going to be the best out of all three of those. I also like the situation that he's in Carolina because he has so many former coaches, right? So many former quarterbacks, so many guys that have been there, done that on the staff. So I think if anything, they're going to help him kind of, learn how to be an NFL quarterback. But also just watching him at Alabama, man, he's a natural leader. Right. I mean, even his last year at Alabama, they didn't have a very good team, and he still did a really good job with them. Right. I mean, he's a guy that he's not going to just scramble around all the time, but he's capable of getting outside the pocket. His arm is really good. I mean, it is. And he just, like I said, he's just a good leader of men. CJ Stroud, I mean, he's an Ohio State quarterback. There's always going to be questions about Ohio State quarterbacks until somebody really breaks through. So he's got a few hurdles to overcome, but I think he's got the goods. And Anthony Richardson, honestly, Chris, is the big unknown. Right. I mean, he's literally had 13 games of action at Florida, and you just don't know. You see, I think he has the best ceiling. Right. I just don't know where his floor starts. That's the biggest problem. Right. I think his floor is very low and his ceiling could potentially be high. But what is he actually going to achieve is the big question. So if I had to pick a guy to start right now, I would go with Bryce Young. And honestly, it's funny. I'm here in Vegas. I cover the Raiders, obviously. I think that the Raiders were comfortable with Bryce Young, too. I mean, they were in play to try to trade up to that number one spot. They didn't get it. Carolina did. But they were trying to trade up to that number one spot. And I think that the only reason they were trying to trade up to that number one spot is to try to get Bryce Young as well.
That'd be very interesting, man. Because
it would. I kind of would be interested to see what it would be like. I mean, I don't think that would make I don't think Carolina's going to be a team that's going to make a deep playoff run this year if they even make the playoffs. Like, there's going to be a lot of bumps and bruises. But I'll tell you, selfishly, as a guy that covers a team every day, if Bryce Young was the quarterback for the Raiders and he was going to sit there and learn and potentially be that quarterback of the future, I'd be all for it. I'd be excited by that just because, again, I think that he's a hell of a leader. And if there's a guy that's got a chance to be that quarterback, that dude, I think it's more likely him.
You know what? I kind of agree with you there. That is pretty funny. I want to talk about some of the other quarterbacks out there, and specifically quarterbacks on the same team who are duking it out right now as we approach preseason and get you ready to finish up training camp here across the NFL. We'll do that in a minute here on the Locked On NFL podcast. Chris Carter, your boy Q, breaking things down. But first, before we do anything else, I want to remind you that this show is sponsored by LinkedIn. Every day there are new potential hires available out there, but every time you try to hire one, it seems like it's a high stakes wager that could put your small business at risk. That's where LinkedIn Jobs comes in because they make it easy to find people that you want to talk to faster and for free. Create a new job post in minutes on LinkedIn Jobs to reach your network and beyond to the world's largest professional network of over 810 million people. Then add your job and purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring so your network can help you find the right people to hire. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs number one in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the candidates that you want to talk to faster. Did you know every week nearly 40 million job seekers visit LinkedIn? Post your job for free at LinkedIn.com. That's /LockedOnNFL. That's LinkedIn.com /LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Back here on the Locked On Steelers podcast, I'm your host, Chris Carter here.
Hey, hold on. Locked On Steelers?
I said Locked On Steelers. I apologize. Locked On NFL.
So you're trying to bogart. See, you always try to bogart the show, man. See how America, you are Chris Carter trying to hustle and bamboozle and capture this show.
You're lucky I didn't say it was the North Shore Drive podcast from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette because I also did that show just right before this one. So I'm just mixing up my shows, man.
You're trying to steal and take away this show's real title.
You're right. You know what? As such, let's just talk about the Steelers for the next 20 minutes. That's what we're going to do right here. No,
I'm going to walk off the set. I'm already walking and standing and dancing. I'm going to walk.
Why aren't you sitting down this week? What is going on?
I'm standing up. I got a desk where I can stand, and you actually project better when you stand. So I'm standing. That's why I'm moving. You have a standing desk.
That's what's going on.
Yeah, but my desk can lower if I want to. Like if I want to lower it, I could.
All right. So what changed? Because you've been sitting for like
because I got a new desk.
Oh, it's a new desk. I thought this was the same desk you've always had.
No, it's new.
Okay.
I had to upgrade myself. I was like,
so what you're saying is you're flexing on the show.
Yeah.
Gosh. Dark skin tendencies.
That's right. That's right. But I still got the name of the show right.
And listen. If you still got to do Locked On Raiders and Locked On Bets. You're gonna slip up one time tonight.
It's all good. It's all good.
Anyways, I want to switch topics now to the 49ers situation because their quarterback situation is very interesting. As we know, they traded up to get Trey Lance just a couple of years ago, and then they drafted Brock Purdy with literally the Mr. Irrelevant pick, the last guy in the draft. And now it seems like Brock Purdy is trending towards being the guy who's going to win the number one spot.
He ain't trending. He is that guy.
He is that right. I'm trying to be polite here and not just.
But hey, man, let's call it what it is. Brock Purdy is the dude. Trey Lance, who they gave up an arm, leg, their firstborn, and everything, is sitting in the back burner. Man, he's not even in the. He ain't even in the passenger seat. Man, he's sitting in the back, like the third row. Right, he's way in the back.
Sam Darnold beat him out. And Sam Darnold, like, if he beats you out for a job, you just in trouble.
Right. Exactly. Look, this is the thing, man. And it's funny because the 49ers are actually here in Vegas scrimmaging. They have joint practices going on with the Raiders yesterday and today. And then on Sunday, they have their preseason game. But, on Thursday, literally Trey Lance is the third string. He came in the third string. He, like you said, Sam Darnold beat him out. Sam Darnold took the second string snaps. So it just kind of blew my mind because I know how much the 49ers gave up for Trey Lance, and every time they tried to put him in a position to be the guy, he wasn't able to take over because of injury. Look, they basically said, hey, I know we have Jimmy G, but he's not going to be the guy. You're going to be the guy. We're going to go get him. Then they go get him, and then they get Purdy as the, in the 7th round, and they say, all right, Jimmy G ain't coming back. We're telling anybody who's anybody you can trade for him right now. We'll give him away for a loaf of bread. And nobody did. They put him on the third field by himself. They didn't even let Jimmy G practice with the people. Then all of a sudden they needed him. And so then they welcomed him back in. You know why they needed him? Because Trey Lance went down again, right? It's just like, what in the world is going on? So that is one of the biggest mysteries to me is Trey Lance in general, right? Because he had so much talent and potential coming out of school, but we know about potential. And what he's done so far in the league has been nothing. So I look at it, and this is just my gut feeling, Chris. At some point, they're going to have to trade him, right? Purdy's going to be the guy, and they can get any swinging D to be the backup, right? I mean, as far as I'm concerned, if Sam Darnold could be the guy, I feel like you could be the guy, or I could be the guy, whatever, right? So I don't think that Trey Lance is going to be a guy that's going to stick around there for a long time because it just doesn't make too much sense. So I think they're going to have to trade him off. I just don't know what they're going to get back. They're not going to get the return on investment that they made to get him. They're not going to get half of that back.
They sent their first round pick in 2021, their first round pick in 2022, and their first round pick in 2023, and a 2022 third round pick.
Yep.
If you were to look at what all of those picks became, the 2021 pick, can you guess who was taken with the pick that they traded away?
Who did they trade with again?
The Cowboys.
Oh, no, they didn't trade
Micah Parsons. They traded away the pick.
That's right. They traded to number 11, right? Or they traded up from
12
to where? 11? I don't know. Okay,
I think they traded up.
I remember the trades now. That's right. It turned into Micah Parsons. Yeah, that would stud.
So Micah Parsons, Cole Strange, an offensive lineman.
He's a good one though.
Good one. Not Micah Parsons, but good one.
Right. He was the one that the Patriots drafted that was from a Division II or Division III school, and everyone's like, "What the hell are you doing?" Yeah, but he's a good player.
Channing Tindall, a linebacker that was picked by the Dolphins, and this year, defensive lineman Brian Brzee of Clemson, first round. Wow. So imagine imagine if the Niners
hadn't given up that big haul.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so like I said, with all that being said, there at some point they're gonna have to trade him, man. I mean, he's not gonna just sit there behind Trey Lance or behind Brock Purdy and be comfortable with that. At some point, they're gonna have to make a decision on a 5th-year option, and he still hasn't done anything. Right? He's done nothing. So I mean, at least Jordan Love in Green Bay has stayed healthy.
Same.
Trey Lance hasn't even stayed healthy. So it's like, what are you doing? And now I see him taking third string reps. The first snap I saw from him on Thursday, it's a fumble. I mean, he just didn't look very good. But there's going to be a team, Chris, mark my words, that's going to say, you know what? We need a quarterback bad. How about that Trey Lance guy? He had a lot of potential coming out of school. Yeah, but what's Trey Lance done? Who cares? He had potential. He's a quarterback.
Something.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know what they're going to get for him, but they're going to have to, I think, and everyone I've talked to, anyone who covers San Francisco, I'm like, man, ultimately, does the guy get traded? And they're like, I think so. I think so. Like, we don't know when, but they all think that he's going to get traded. I just think that the inevitables coming down the pipeline. If Brock Purdy comes back and shows that he can be healthy this year, Trey Lance is out of there, as far as I'm concerned.
Man, what is your opinion of Brock Purdy? Is he the truth?
And the reason why it's funny, I'm glad you asked me that. You cover a lot of college football. I covered the Big 12 when I was still in Texas, and Iowa State plays in the Big 12. I knew how good Brock Purdy was. I remember being at Baylor University when Iowa State ripped off the red shirt and said, hey, Brock Purdy, you go into the game. And they went into the game, and it was late in the season. Everyone was like, oh, my God, why would you rip off the red shirt and burn his eligibility when he's, when there's no reason to? It's already towards the end of the season. But I knew then that Brock Purdy was good. I remember what he did to Baylor in that game. And I remember what, David Montgomery was able to do. And obviously David Montgomery is a really good running back. The Bears selected him, and now I think he's in Detroit. Matt Campbell's a really good head coach there at Iowa State. He's a guy that, matter of fact, had a lot of NFL attention for a while. I know Iowa State's kind of fallen off a little bit as of late. You know why? Because everyone I just mentioned, plus a couple of others, are already in the NFL. Outside of Matt Campbell. So, I always thought that Brock Purdy was good. I actually was hoping that the Raiders would select him later in the draft to be just like a backup. I didn't think he was going to be a starting quarterback. Like, I would be lying to you if I told you I thought he was going to be this good. But I knew that he was good in college. And so I thought that, you know what, if you can get him in the late round, why not? Like, you know how you do those drafts simulators and you go through and you make your selection?
I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah, and I got Brock Purdy in like round 6, and I think that like Pro Football Focus gave me an A, and I was like, oh my gosh, that could be a developmental quarterback. Well, the Niners did me one better. They got him in round 7, and not only is he developmental, he's their damn starter. So, So, I mean, I feel like I was onto something, but at the same time, I didn't know he was going to be that good. But I do believe he's got the tools to be really good, and plus Kyle Shanahan is a hell of a head coach. And so if anyone's going to get the quarterback right, it'll be Shanahan.
Shanahan has made a lot of advances in the NFL, and he's helped out a lot with that. I hear you on that. Part of me feels like Purdy took advantage of no one knowing what to expect with him and thinking less of him. And this is not to diminish his success, but it makes me wonder how good can Purdy be when everyone's looking for him. And everyone's like, all right, these are his tendencies. Will he develop counter tendencies to what
people are gonna learn what, and pick him apart a little bit. But the thing about that is San Francisco has a really strong defense and a really good run game. Mm-hmm. And that's always gonna help any quarterback. That would help me and you if we went in there at quarterback, because you can rely on the run game and you can rely on the defense. So you don't have to have the pressure of having to do too much. That also is what plays into his hand. And also that's kind of the style of play that was going on at Iowa State under Matt Campbell. It was very pro style, and he was very pro ready.
Dang. It's going to be interesting to see how that shakes out and what continues there to happen with the 49ers. We will continue to talk about.
I'm gonna put a statement out there, and I believe wholeheartedly. I believe by the trade deadline this year, Trey Lance will get traded.
Whoa! All right,
just go ahead and say that.
Q is taking his shot. You heard that, y'all, right?
You're guaranteed to miss a shot you don't take.
Actually, you're guaranteed to not make the shot you don't take.
No, you're guaranteed to miss the shot that you don't take.
No, because you didn't miss the shot because you never took it.
You missed it because you didn't even take the opportunity to take it. So you missed it.
But then I'm shooting 0 for 0, not 0 for 1.
You still
missed. You don't understand math right here.
You understand. You're guaranteed to miss the shot that you don't take. Because you can't make it if you don't take it.
You know what? We're heading to break. We're heading to break, and we're talking about Joe Burrow after the break. All right?
Maybe.
Hey, thanks.
Just saying.
Just saying. No, we get you. We get the point here. But hey, we are going to talk about Joe Burrow because his injury situation is serious. And the question is, when should he return? Jamar Chase says, return when you want. Is he right? We'll talk about that here on the Locked On NFL podcast. Stick with us. We'll be right back. Back here on the Locked On NFL podcast, Chris Carter, your boy Q, breaking things down on the NFL. Let's talk about the Joe Burrow situation. He got into an injury where it was said to be a calf injury, and he went down and he was carted off, and everyone feared the worst. Could it be Achilles? Could he be out for the season again? And it turns out he's not out for the season, but he does have to sit some time out and deal with some injuries there. Jamar Chase came out and was like, hey, take off whatever time you need. We'll be able to win without you. And that's what leaders on teams are supposed to do. They're supposed to say, hey, we still got to operate things like that. But realistically,
right,
how many games can Joe Burrow sit out and not cost his team either pole position in they're chasing the division because the AFC North is really tough. And also, just the playoff positioning because the AFC itself is really tough.
Right. No, it's a good question, man. It really is. And when I saw Joe Burrow go down with the injury, I thought, oh, man, it's all bad. And so now he's got the calf injury. I don't know how long he's going to be out. As you mentioned, Jamar Chase said, we don't need him for the beginning of the season. We need him for the end. Well, if you're not successful during the beginning of the season, the end ain't going to matter. Right? I mean, there's a fine line because he's not wrong. And you got to have your guy. You got to have your quarterback healthy. With Joe Burrow behind center, the Bengals are favored more times than not. Their window to go to the Super Bowl is wide open like some old school TV antenna as long as Joe Burrow's behind center. So you want him out there as much as possible, but you also don't want to put him in harm's way. And when he went down with that calf injury, Chris, I immediately thought of KD when he was with the Warriors and he went down and he ended up coming back and he ended up tearing his Achilles. That's immediately what I thought. I was like, oh, man, it's KD all over again. So my opinion, he's got to really err on the side of caution. He's got to make sure that thing is 100% healthy before he gets out there. But as you know, you cover a team in the AFC North. That's a damn good division, right? And their first 2 games of the season, guess what? Are division games. I think Cleveland's going to be better with Deshaun Watson now removed from a 6-game suspension and removed from, most of the issues that he had going on off the field. I think he'll be better. I think Kenny Pickett in Pittsburgh is going to be better. And I know Lamar Jackson is going to be better in Baltimore. So if you get too far behind in your division, you might not have a chance to come back.
They cannot afford to play around. Not with this division, not with this year. Like you said, there's talent across the board in the AFC North. I cover the AFC North. It is wild to see the differences between the teams, but also the similarities. Because like the Ravens, like when the Ravens were giving the Bengals fits before the goal line stuff that turned into a fumble, that turned into a long touchdown. But like it can get gritty around Pittsburgh when it comes to football. So that's another thing that I'm looking forward to kind of breaking down more as more people get excited more about football and just having it regularly back. That's awesome. But I look at this AFC North.
Yeah, talk to me. It's your division. Talk to me.
If the Bengals are without Joe Burrow for 2 games, I think they can overcome that. I think they can still win the division. They'll figure out how that works. If the Bengals are missing him for a month, I think it becomes a problem.
Right.
Now, I think that the Steelers have been prepping their tight ends for this. They've been bulking them up, trying to get them to, I think, be ready for that moment. But
let me ask you this. What's the schedule look like? So the first 2 games, Cleveland, Baltimore, who's
Rams.
After that?
They got the Rams. Now, I will say this. The Bengals benefit from they play the Browns on the road week 1.
Right.
But
Trevor Siemian, if Trevor Siemian is behind center, I'm not buying that as a winner, right?
No. That is a rough one.
Going to make you a favorite against Cleveland. You're not telling me Trevor Siemian is going to make you a favorite against Baltimore. I refuse to believe that.
I agree. But week 2 and week 3, they are at home. and they could maybe pull something off. Now, here's the other thing is that their defense is going to look.
Not without Joe Burrow. You're not beating Baltimore without Joe Burrow. Nope.
And I mean, they almost lost to Baltimore's backup last year with Joe Burrow. So there's that. And then they have the Rams also at home. That could be a get right game if the Rams
might win them. Yeah,
right. I can see that, but they need time because I truly look at this. If they start the season out 0-2, there will be panic buttons ready to be pressed.
I'm sure. So it's week 3. Okay, week 3 is the Rams. Who's after that?
Then they're on the road back-to-back weeks, Titans and Cardinals. And
Cardinals, I could definitely see them winning that one. I think Cardinals are going to stink, but the Titans are a big question for me too. I don't know if the Titans are going to be good or not. Shout out to my man Tyler. I don't know. Listen to Lock on Titans, and you'll find out if they're going to be good or not. But I look, out of those 5 games, I look at the Cardinals as okay. That's the one that they'd win if Trevor Siemian was in there and not Joe Burrow. The rest of them, I feel like the first 2 I think are definitely L's. And I have questions about the Rams and the Titans. So, yeah, I think Joe Burrow needs to be there, right? To be a really good team, you got to have Joey B.
Yep.
But you also have to have him healthy. So it's like a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. So hopefully he doesn't miss any time. But the fact that we don't know what the timeline is something that I'm already concerned about for a team that I believe is the second best team in the AFC in general.
I'm right with you. Patrick Mahomes on the Quarterback Netflix show said that there's one quarterback that he's like, if I go up against him, it's war, and it's Joe Burrow. He didn't name Josh Allen. He said, I'm pointing to Joe Burrow. So he respects that man.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a rivalry. They've now knocked each other out of the playoffs and back-to-back seasons and on their way to Super Bowls. Now, granted, one team won the Super Bowl, one team didn't, but I think that the AFC North is in a position where it's going to be highly competitive. It's going to have a lot of different things coming together. The Steelers offense that I've been watching in training camp for the past several weeks, they are much more efficient than they used to be. Yeah. And I don't know if that's going to translate to, them dominating the division or anything like that. Right. But I think it's going to give them more opportunities where they didn't have them as much before.
I think that division is easily probably going to be the best division in football. And that's why I'm saying it's so concerning if Joe Burrow's not there. Again, like he said, as long as he's under center, their window to go to the Super Bowl is wide open. But if he's not, then there's questions. So they want to get him back sooner rather than later. And I think you hit it on the head. If they're out the first 2 games, even though they're division games, they're probably division losses, okay, you can rebound from that. If you're out 4 games, if you're out 5 games,
that's a problem.
Then you got a problem. I don't care who you're playing. You got to be able to have your guy behind center.
I hear you on that. The quarterback position will be closely watched all throughout preseason. We'll have updates here on the Locked On NFL podcast, as well as all of our Locked On NFL shows. We have Steelers, we have Raiders, we have Bears, we have Broncos. There's so many different shows. Go check them out here to find your favorite team. For them to listen to us talk about them, because we got hosts from all over the place. He's your boy Q. He covers the Raiders with the Raider Nation Radio Network, as well as the Locked On Raiders podcast. Q, let people know where they can find you, follow you, and get more of your work.
I mean, everything is on Twitter, man. Just check me out on Twitter at your boy Q254, at your boy Q254. Links to everything, Locked On Raiders, Locked On Bets, Locked On NFL, whatever the case may be. The link is right there, again, in the Twitter bio. I guess it's X now, but I still call it Twitter because that's just how I roll. At your boy Q254. What about you, Chris?
I also still call it Twitter. I don't know what the heck that's just not going to work. Anyways, I'm Chris Carter. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Carter Critiques. You can read my work at the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, where I cover all things Pitt athletics. And you can also check out my work here on the Locked On NFL podcast, as well as the Locked On Steelers podcast. Thanks again to Q for being such a great partner. We're always happy to have him with us. We'll be back again next week, breaking things down and what we see heading into week 2 of preseason for most teams, and getting you guys ready for that. Thanks again for checking us out. We'll see you again very soon.